I just reposted for anyone in the Patreon on this level. Thank you guys for the support. We're pumped. As a comedy fan, lover myself, I always love hearing how Mark gets into his thing. So the way this kind of classes kind of go, and again, this is our first one, so we're still figuring it out. But we're gonna start with a bunch of questions that were just asked from an overall perspective, kind of dive into Mark's, process, things of that nature. We're gonna take a look at a couple of past bits that he's had. Mark will kind of break them down. And then we'll open it up and kind of write some jokes together and kind of just see where it goes for the next hour. So, like I said, this is the first one. We're still getting our foundation down on like what this is, but Mark for years has been talking about how he loves just talking shop. So this is kind of like the dream of being able to really get to talk comedy and kind of break down the process overall. So with that being said, I'm gonna let Mark kind of just talk about comedy real quick, and we'll hop into the AMA.
All right, just broadly chat about comedy. I mean, it's a lot of aspects to comedy.
We could start with the first question. How about that?
Oh,
So
okay,
how did you get into comedy overall?
All right, I'll try to keep these brief because I feel like some of you guys are real normies or Tuesdays or drunks or whatever you want to call it. So I'm sure you've heard all this before, but rudderless, piece of shit, loser guy, failed out of 3 colleges. I was a waiter at a Mexican restaurant. One of the other waiters was like an improv, sketch, all-around comedy nerd guy. And we would talk comedy all day. Norm Macdonald, Conan, Bill Murray, all the greats. And he's like, I'm going to do an open mic. You should come. And I was like, I can't do that. Who am I? I'm a piece of garbage. Nobody likes me. And he said, come with. And I said, I can't. And I totally pussed out on it. And I remember I hated myself for it. And I would beat myself up at night and jerk off. And then one day he said, I'm going again. It's in Lafayette. It's like 2 hours away. And I said, you know what? I'm going. Fuck it. And I wrote a couple minutes on the Family Feud show. I remember I had like a few bits about that. They were all terrible because I used to love Family Feud. And we drove out there. We got really drunk. And I loved every minute of it. It was my first open mic. We had a comedy meeting in the back of this bar with all the other comics. There was a community aspect. Everybody had their notes. We're all dorks. And then I bombed horribly, ran the light. The guy hated me. I went home and just beaming. And I looked in the phone book for comedy clubs, and I went to every open mic in the world. And I moved to New York, and the rest is history.
Not bad.
Yeah, that was 15 years ago.
All right. Well, now we'll get into some technical stuff. So, how do you even approach writing a joke, and like, what is your process overall?
Yeah, here's the thing about jokes is the problem with jokes is they have to come out of thin air. They got to just come from nothing. So the only thing you have is a little bit of an inkling or just a pubic hair of an idea, and you go, there could be something there. And then you play with it like clay. Just start fucking with that idea and twisting it and turning it. And my move is I have an idea, so I'll go, this is an old joke where I was hooking up with a girl once, and she leaned in and she was like, I'm not wearing any underwear. And my first thought was, so what? Like, the underwear, is that going to stop me if you have panties on? Like, shit, what am I going to do? I can't crack this code. And I thought, hey, I continued to make out with her and try to grab a boob, but I was also like, that could be something. And then you go home and you have to try to figure it out with a pen and a paper. But I think the pen and the paper is overrated. That pen and the paper is very intimidating. It's just a blank page. I think you talk it out. I like to walk and talk like a real psycho. I got a hairbrush or a wooden spoon, and I talk it out as if I'm saying it in front of a crowd. And you have to know where your laugh is. It's the only way to get through it on stage, because on stage, a new joke is so terrifying. It's all unknown. The thing you think will get a laugh won't get a laugh. And the thing you think won't get a laugh does get a laugh. It's chaos up there. And it frazzles you when they're not laughing. It completely throws you off guard. So walk and talk and try to predict it as well as possible. Like, go, this is where they'll laugh. This will be the punchline. Sam Harris, I don't know, love him or hate him. He has a great line about jokes. He says, jokes are like building a lock in front of someone, and the punchline is the key. Come on, that's pretty good shit. He's a smart guy. He's not a funny guy. But smart people like comedy. Thank God. Well, so do dumb people too. I mean, Fluffy has a career, but I digress. So I think for me, it's getting that inkling. Something tickles your taint. You go, there's an idea there. And then you got to go back and fuck with it and play with it and twist it and then find what's funny about it and then get to why it's funny in a surprising way. That's the part nobody tells you about stand-up. Will Ferrell's a funny guy. Martin Short's a funny guy. Jack Black's a funny guy. But I bet they can't do stand-up because stand-up is not just funny, but it's funny plus structure. You got to build this fucking thing. Anybody can do construction, but can you be an architect? Aha. Write that down. All right, next question.
Quick question to play off of that. So when it came
Sure.
to the panties and unlocking, how did you use that in a sense to build a joke? Like, you said you were like hooking up with a girl
Yeah.
and you wanted she says, I'm not wearing any panties. So if that was the basis of a joke,
Premise.
what happens for that premise? What happens within your mind and thinking about that after the fact?
All right, so you got the premise. So now you go, now why did I think this is funny? Why is this worth saying? Why might this get a laugh? So you need to find the point of the bit. And the point of the bit is like panties, like if you did have panties, it would, throw me off in some way. So you go, okay, that's the funny part. Like, of course, if you're wearing panties, she thought I would go, oh, that's so hot. But in my head, I was like, who cares? I was going to get through either way, So I thought, okay, that's the funny part of the joke. So I set it up and I can't remember how I did it, but it was like, I'm not wearing any underwear. And then I was like, oh no, has that ever stopped anybody? Oh no, I can't crack that code. And then here's the funny part. I flipped it. I said, it's only sexy for women to not have underwear. If a guy doesn't wear underwear, it's a whole different ball game. If a guy goes, I'm not wearing any underwear, the girl's going to go, what happened? Shit your pants? That part killed because I flipped it. So I had this nugget and then it had to grow into like that other thing about the man part. So that's the hard part about comedy is pulling that flip out of thin air. But that's just what happens when you tweak and shape and twist the bit around a million times. Like, what if a
Jay,
man didn't have underwear? Now we're on to something.
Jay, you could hop in and ask a question.
Sorry, I'm rambling.
Yeah, so Mark, like with that bit, when you first brought that up on stage, and like you either got the laugh or maybe you didn't quite get the laugh off of that bit that you wanted, like where did your mind go that you were like, wait, what do I have to change about the angle or my delivery? Or like maybe where I'm pausing in order to get a better laugh. Like how do I get like that really hard belly laugh to change,
question. Yeah, it's a great question. That's the hard part about comedy is it's so much trial and error. Like I had to try that bit, I don't know, 9 times before I could kind of feel out where I'm at. And you realize that the going, hey, I can get past you not wearing underwear is it gonna make it harder? That's not really an obstacle. That was like a chuckle. So I was like, okay, I know there's something here, but that ain't the exact punch. And then it took a couple bombs of it for me to realize this needs more. And that's where I put the man twist on it. And then it started clicking. But that's the thing is a lot of people go up and bomb a joke and they go, well, that joke sucks. Like, no, it doesn't suck. You just haven't cracked the code on it. You need the right angle or your timing is off. So the pacing and the timing and the pauses just come from repetition. And you got to listen to it. You got to go back and listen to your set and go, oh, I hate that. That part sucks. Or I should have paused longer. So that's all just reps, which is hard. Comedy's all about reps. That's why it takes so long to build an act.
Did you have an angle that you tried for that? Like what's like an unsuccessful angle that you tried to work around that bit?
I think I tried a whole angle of a guy seeing a woman's panties and being flustered, like, oh no, what do I do? It was like a combination lock. Like I could just maybe pull them down, which is too obvious. There's not much of a turn there. So it didn't really, I think they were with me on the premise, but it wasn't enough of a twist to get an actual involuntary laugh. But once I pulled the man thing in, like if a man's not wearing panties, something bad happened. That's when it really cooked. but it took a lot of
Right.
tries to figure that out. And that's the hard part, is some people just give up on it. And you can't give up on it if you believe in the bit, because then you won't come up with that angle.
Right. Yeah. Cool. Thanks.
Hey, good question.
Great. Cool. So we'll move on to the next question is, how do you know a joke is original and not another comedian's?
That's a hell of a question. Somebody's got to make an app or a glossary. There's probably no money in it, but you got to Google it. Ask your friends who know a lot about comedy. I get that text all the time. Hey, has this been done? David Tell will text me. Sam will text me. And I'm a pretty good joke Rolodex over here just because I like comedy so much. So either you got to ask friends, Google it, or, and this one hurts the most, search it on Twitter. When you search it on Twitter, you realize 9,000 people have done that joke. And that sucks, because Twitter is basically mostly jokes. It's like 75% jokes. So they're all out there, which is a real kick in the dick. So if you want to look at Twitter, that's your call. But those are the three best ways to find out if someone else has done it. And good for you for checking. Some people just go, hey, I wrote a joke. I don't care that Chris Rock did it in 1994. I'm doing it. You go, well, you suck. But good for you for even wondering about that.
And how do you, to that point, if you have similar premise, when does it become okay to have similar premises as another comedian, but the joke is still identified as your own?
Hey, another good question. First of all, you got to have your own voice. Obviously, Norm or Dave Chappelle or Louis or Bill Burr, they have such a distinct voice, like point of view. I've heard a million guys do the same premise. Can't judge a book by its cover, but all we do is judge a book by a cover, blah, 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 blah. Michael Che has a bit about that. Burr has a bit about that. Rock has a bit, like everyone has that setup, but it's the where you go with it that makes it your own. So as long as the punchline is different, sometimes the premise can be way so specific that it feels too close. But if the premise is broad enough and common knowledge-y enough, I think if the punchline is different, you're good.
Great. On that note,
geez. That's a tough question.
Yeah, what's your favorite bit or bits by another comedian?
Well, I have so many. I mean, it's like saying who's the hottest woman. You know, there's just so many different types of hot ladies out there. I don't know. Like I talked about on the podcast here with Norm, that gay pride joke that Norm does changed my whole joke writing trajectory philosophy. So that one was huge for me. I think Louis' got some of the best of all time, but Louis' bit about yeah, but maybe, I think it's from Oh My God. It's like, it's the best joke because it's this perfect vehicle for telling the truth, and he gets away with it. You know, he's like, he's such a genius because he hides behind the joke. He's like, yeah, slavery was wrong, but without it, maybe we wouldn't have the country we have today, you know, or slavery is horrible, but without it, we wouldn't have great things and whatever it is. Like, yeah, you're fighting for your country, but maybe you're just being sent over to another place to shoot people so we don't have to, or whatever the hell the joke. It's a brilliant joke structure. So that one's up there. N-word versus black people is huge just because it's so goddamn ballsy. Man, there's so many great ones. Let's see. Chappelle's joke about if pussy was a stock, that shit would be plummeting right now. And then there's a million street jokes I love too. So, I mean, all the Holocaust jokes are great. The dead baby jokes. How do you fit 6,000 Jews in a car, put them in the ashtray? All that shit is clever. And we all scoff it off because we go, oh, that's horrible. But I'm like, that's pretty good. I mean, sure, it's about a bunch of dead people, but like, it's still smart. I don't know. I can see past the subject matter and still see the quality in the joke. So, I mean, Louis got the why joke is amazing with his kid, the 6-year-old kid. Like, why? Because we're all going to die one day, and ants with top hats. That's a great one. Bill Burr's Me Too movement joke is great. Like a woman, what about the women who like it rough? You know, that whole thing. So many great bits. I could go all day about the bits, but Chris Rock's got a couple of great ones. Man, old Chris Rock. The new stuff's not as fun. Mulaney's got some great stuff. Remember Mulaney's Jew joke with the midget? He's like, oh no, he goes, You can't say midget. That's like saying the N-word. He's like, no, it's not. We're saying midget. And he's like, well, if you do that, there's going to be 8,000 midgets out there protesting. And he goes, promise? I mean, come on. That's comedy.
Great.
All right. Sorry, I'm getting a boner.
All
What else
right.
you got?
So the next question we have is, what separates the funny guy in the office from a comedian?
That's a good one. That's a good one. The funny guy in the office is tough because he thinks he's funny, which already makes him not funny. He's like, yeah, I'm the funny guy. And you're like, right, but that's not funny. The funny guy hates himself and thinks he sucks and is uncomfortable. The funny guy in the office is too cocky, thinks he's funny, and the bar for comedy in an office is so fucking low. I mean, Brad Williams could limbo onto that thing. It's so low that if you have one inkling of a dick joke, you're all of a sudden Richard Pryor in the cubicle. But so that guy sucks. And if you put him in a comedy club setting, he would eat his ass because he's never said anything really that original. He'll be like, oh man, $1 short of being a millionaire, whatever the fuck. And you go, all right, that's kind of a joke. Not really. Nobody cares, you know. Give me something I can sink my teeth into. You never had a real thought. You never had a point of view. You never had an idea that I never thought of. It's all just bottom barrel Walmart, grab bag comedy. Hey, that's what she said. Get out of here. Somebody else wrote that, you queef. So that's the problem. The funny guy in the office thinks he's funny. The bar is through the floor, and he's doing recycled shit that someone else thought of. Now,
All
look.
right.
You can be a funny guy at the office and still do comedy. Look, Bill Burr worked in an office in a dentist place for 10 minutes. So it's possible, but usually I think the funny guy is quiet. If you're piping up a lot, I don't know how funny you are, but it's all debatable. But those are my answers, and I'm sticking to it.
All right. And a couple more questions here, but can wittiness be taught, being witty?
Ooh. How do you go? What does that say? How do you go from being funny on paper
to funny in person?
I think wittiness can be taught, actually. Fun fact, singing is not a skill. Well, singing is a skill, but it's not God-given. Singing can be taught. Anybody can sing. We could all be Celine Dion in 5 years if we really put our mind to it. But wittiness can be taught, I think, because wittiness is hearing certain things. Wittiness is more clever than funny. And you can hear certain words and start to memorize, like, okay, what do they call them? Homonyms or homophones? When two words sound the same but mean different things? Is that a homophone? Homophobe? Homonym? What is that? You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's one of the two.
One of the two. It's one of the two. I'm trying to think of a good example of a homophone. Let's see. Shit. Like shoot a movie, or he's a photographer for schools. He's a school shooter. Whatever. That's a homonym. It makes sense on both. He's shooting video and he's also shooting children in homeroom. So after a while of doing those, you can start to connect those two and get better at it. And that makes you seem wittier. So I guess you are becoming wittier. I mean, if I listen to old Tuesdays, me and Joe, the joke rate is way lower than it is now. I think we just got better at it, hearing jokes, where a joke could be. That sounds like something else. You said goodbye. I say I'm bye. Whatever it is. I mean, this isn't a top shelf wit, but it's something. And I think you can learn that over time. And the more you're around it, and the more you're trying to do it, the more you learn. It's almost like when you know how when you're like, I need new shoes. My shoes have a hole in it. I need new shoes. And you start seeing everyone's shoes. You start noticing shoes. Or when you learn a word, you start seeing that word everywhere. You're like, what the fuck's going on? I'm seeing the word escargot everywhere. And you're like, no, it's because you know it now. And it's the same with witty. If you just kind of teach yourself to always look out for it, you'll see it. And how do you go from being funny on paper to funny on person? Funny on person, I think, is more innate. I think that's more in you. Just being a goofball and moving weird, like Jim Carrey is just funny. I don't know where he learned that shit. but it's just in him. It's just who he is, and they harness it. Same with an athlete. You know, some guys can just throw a fucking spiral and dunk a basketball and all that shit. They just have it in them. Some people are athletic, some people are funny. So I think the funny on in person is actually more born, inborn, stillborn, whatever it is. So that I'd say is innate. Witty can be taught. There you go.
If witty could be taught and like you could go to do singing classes, what are some ways to continue on a day-to-day basis of working on your wittiness?
Conway Witty. Well, I'd say you could do shit like that. Word association. I just did inborn, stillborn, airborne. Just do it for fun. Just keep going. There's no wrong answer as long as they connect. Me and Liz were talking about the Dame Judi Dench, and then he said Dane Cook or Dame Cook, and I said Great Dame. It's just fun. I mean, it's the shortest path to a joke. It's just word association, stream of conscious. So always be closing. No, always be thinking like I'm across the street from a gas station. And you could say, hey, that's what a concentration is. Basically, a concentration camp. It's a gas station or whatever it is. You know, you got gas and you got gas. So we're fun. We're cooking. So they're all out there. They're all there, and we're missing them all day long. But if you just keep an eye out and an ear out, I think it's a good way to train yourself.
When you come across something that's witty that gets you kind of going, how do you apply that within your process? Is that where you then take it and start playing and bring it to stage, or do you just work on something like, oh, that might be a bit there? So then you go through that process of trying to yam it up in a sense?
Yeah, well, I think, let's be honest, nobody likes puns on stage, really. Do a pun on stage, you're gonna get a groan. But if the audience can see that you're being funny enough already, like they trust your funniness, you can throw in a pun on top of it. I think what really impresses an audience is a really clever observation that they didn't catch, but it was right there in front of all of us. Those are the best kind of jokes. So I think a witty observation is way more impressive than a witty, clever pun. So I would say throw the witty observations on stage, and then, you know, like I had a joke about some guy was against gay people adopting. They're like, that's not right. Gay people shouldn't be able to adopt kids. There shouldn't be gay parents. And I was like, I like gay people adopting kids because you know that kid wasn't an accident, you know? And that's kind of a clever observation. It's not ha-ha, but I knew I could make some ha-ha out of it. Then I had 12 gay puns after that. So once you get the witty observation that they didn't think of, but it was right there, now you're off and cooking. Does that help? I don't know if I answered the question.
Yeah, that was great.
Okay.
Yeah,
I think I went off on a tear there.
No, that was great. Any so far, this interactive, is there any questions so far that
This is
play
real
off of
nerd
them?
shit here. Sorry, guys. Or gals. All right.
All right.
Fair talk. Wait. Oh, some guy Jay is getting bold. You see that? The chat?
Is it cool?
I mean, it's up to the comment, the mediator.
Yeah. We could totally let's pitch a bit and Mark will work on it, and as a team, we could kind of break it up. So
Let's all work. Josh, Tommy, Udoy. Let's all try to let's all chime in. See if we can help. I mean, we got some minds here. Well, Jay, Angel, Mike.
I've had bit for
Yeah.
like a couple years now, and I still haven't been able to get the laugh like right where I want it.
Yeah.
So and it's great too, because this is like a very like Mark Normandy. This is like a ode to Mark Norman bit. So I'm talking about I have a lot of roommates because I used to live in Brooklyn, and you get a lot of weird people in Brooklyn. And it was weird because I had this one roommate. He called me the N-word all the time, which I thought was weird because he's Puerto Rican.
Aha.
And I really want the laugh on the Puerto Rican bit. Like, I like the misdirection.
Yes.
But I never can get that right there. So I go on and I say, well, I don't know how to approach that conversation with them. I'm not trying to, I'm not trying to be the black people police. right? Like if I'm trying to be the black people police, I think I would just join the police.
I was gonna say that. That was gonna be my tip, but you nailed it.
But and then
That's
I go on
hilarious.
and I go, yeah, I'm not trying to be the black people police. I try to be, I mean, when a homeless guy calls me the N-word on the street, I mean, secretly, I love it. Like I'm like Jay-Z or something.
Right.
But I don't know. I want to get like kind of that misdirection of that I have this roommate and he's coming in and he's calling me the N-word all the time. And then all of a sudden, oh wait, but he's Puerto Rican. Like, you know, it's kind of weird. Like, why are Puerto Ricans like, it's just more like, I think it's like an interesting observation that I don't know, why do they get the pass on this?
I
Like,
agree.
saying that word, I'm like, I don't know, but I just think it's a weird thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that the misdirect in the beginning, there's definitely something there, but it's almost like you're almost doing a double misdirect because you're like, he's calling me the N-word. You look like a white guy.
Yeah.
That's weird. And then you're also like thinking he's black. In my mind, I was like, oh, he's probably a black guy. That's why he's saying the N-word, but then he's Puerto Rican. So the misdirect is kind of confusing because you're like, is the misdirect that you're calling the white guy an N-word, or is the misdirect that he's not an N-word? You see what I'm saying?
So okay. Yeah.
Wait a minute. I think I lost you.
No. I think yeah. Okay.
Which misdirect are you going for? Are you going for the fact that he's
Puerto Rican? Like I want it to be telling the joke, and I'm setting it up like, oh, okay, he has this black roommate, Oh wait, he's Puerto Rican. Like why?
right?
It's weird. Like why would he be?
Yeah. That's good. That's good.
I don't know if this makes sense with it, but if changing the Puerto Rican and just delaying how much you love being called that in a selfish way, but then realizing that your roommate's name is Todd and he's just a white guy, and maybe he's racist, or I don't know.
There's also a
the whole
spin.
power in that joke is the roommate thing. Is that you say
Yeah.
roommate first. As soon as you say roommate, then you can lean into that, and then you can. The emphasis is on that you paint this as someone who's comfortable saying the N-word, which the audience would go, well, that's a black person, of course. So I think if you lean into that, when you hit him with, which I found was, he's comfortable saying it. I guess it's like a camaraderie thing. I find it weird because he's Puerto Rican. I think that's the bit of it, is that you lean into the roommate part, because then, the deception comes from, they assume that it's a black guy.
Yeah, and I think you can also add, you say you like when black people call the N-word, you feel cool. I think most whitey does. But you're bummed because the only one calling you that is not even a black guy. Like, you're not offended that he's saying the N-word. You're offended that you're not black, because then I would feel better if you were.
That's
like, it would
so
be more,
good. Yeah.
It would be more complimentary. You see what I'm saying?
I like that. Yeah. Okay, cool. I get
Like,
that.
oh, fuck, this guy's saying the N-word. He's not even black. If it was black, it would actually be nice. Something like that.
Okay, yeah, that's perfect. Okay, now I know where to take that. Cool. Yeah, thank you.
It's a great bit.
So the next, and this is, like I said, we're just figuring out how these classes will go, so this will work out. But Angel, I hope I said your name right, but has another bit that he'd like to pitch.
All right, Angel.
I don't even know if it's a bit. Like, I've never done an open mic. I want to, but so recently I lost 100 pounds over COVID. But there's some shit about being fat that I miss, right? Like I used to do the funny shit, like turn my belly button to a vagina and finger it. But now it looks weird. It looks more like anal than a vagina. It doesn't make people laugh the same way. Also, I talk about like different stages of losing weight that you start to notice on your own. Like, I can tie my shoe, and then I don't have to hold my breath to tie my shoe. And then it's, oh shit, there's my dick. I haven't seen my dick in a long time.
Right.
And then figuring, like, just working on that stuff. But I don't know where to go with it or what to do. Just want to do an open mic like once and see what it's like. But
I love it. That's such a great premise, is I lost a bunch of weight, but there's things about being fat I miss. That is huge. I've never heard that angle in my entire life. I've heard a million fat jokes. That's killer. Here's a way, I like the finding your dick and all that. That's fun. Here's a way you can wrap that bit up, is the beauty of it is sometimes I miss it so much, I can just go back to it. You know, like in the holidays, if I really want to, I'll just get fat again. And then I'm like, you can, that's the beauty of getting fat and thin. You can do it over and over again. You know, like
Yeah.
your Nana dies. That's it. You can't eat a bunch of pound cake and get Nana back.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So that's something.
Yeah. And then I was also talking about trying to figure out a way to talk about the protections society gives you when you're fat. You know, there's a confidence that comes with it, right? I could take my shirt off. The big is beautiful, man. If you don't like it, fuck you. You're fat shaming. But now my body looks like a ball sack. If my fucking skin is hanging down, I can't take my shirt off. I just don't know how to make that. Beautiful. So like my confidence has gone down because I don't have those same protections, and now I care about what I look like as opposed to when I was fat. I didn't give a fuck. It was everybody else's problem, not mine.
Right. That's great too. When you're fat, nobody can fuck with you because then they're fat shaming. But when you got saggy, loose skin, they can be like, geez, look at this weirdo.
Yeah, exactly.
But there's no saggy skin shame.
Yeah.
To save you. Yeah, that's interesting. Huh.
It's like you have the skinny models and you have the plus size models. Where do you where are the models that are in between that have lost all the weight but their skin is still there? Like where are they? Where are those models?
Yeah,
that's good.
The pugs.
Yeah, you got no identity. Either you're skinny or fat. That's all we have. But what about the middle shit? What about the X-Fat? It's the worst superhero group ever, the X-Fats.
Yeah, Oprah's the leader.
Right. She goes in and out.
So we have another bit.
All right, Angel.
Sorry. Who is next to ask on that list? Just pull it back up. All right, so we'll hop into a couple more bits in a second, but I think one area of this that we wanted to dive into is we took two kind of bits here, Mark, and just want to go into how you got them from concept to bit, if you don't mind. So let me know if you guys can't hear this, but I think you'll be able to hear. We'll start with the wingman story to start.
They're short. Don't worry, they're short.
I don't know how to connect anymore. You know, my friend just got dumped. So I took him out, tried to wingman him, meet some ladies for him. Didn't go too well. You know, he got upset. He's like, screw this. Let's go to a strip club. I don't get that logic. You know, to me, that's like going fishing, not catching anything and being like, screw this. Let's go to the aquarium. Same thing. The only difference is no one leaves an aquarium going, I think that flounder was into me. That's one hot piece of bass.
Yeah, so how did you come up with that?
By the way, that proves my point. Hot piece of bass is a horrible pun, but I had a solid idea up front, so they let me get away with a horrible pun. But yeah, I love analogies. I love, what do you call it? Parallels. So I thought like, well, what's the bit? You go to a strip club? Wait a minute. How'd it go? I just forgot it.
No, you try to get girls and then you leave to a strip club. Why would you do that? That's like going to fishing, not catching anything and saying, all right, fuck it, let's go to aquarium.
Right. Yeah. I used to go to a lot of strip clubs with my friend. That was like a big thing in the 90s. I guess, I don't know, it was pre-porn. So strip clubs were like a big deal. And I hated it because I would just have blue balls and I'd be all horned up and you couldn't really do stuff. I couldn't afford to like fuck them. So yeah, I never got it. And it just hit me one day. I went fishing and I was like, this is like being in a strip club. You don't, or it's like being at an aquarium. We're just looking. What's the point? I hate aquarium. You go to aquarium once, you got it. I never got these. Let's go to the Philly aquarium. Oh, San Diego's got a great aquarium. I've seen a fucking flounder. I don't need to see one in San Diego. I never got that. But I don't know. That just clicked for me one day. It was like, you know, we can't touch the women and we can't touch the fish. You know, I'd rather go catch a fish. So it just, that analogy just clicked in my head. I used to also have a bit about how strippers are like fire alarms, you know, because I really want to touch them. But I know if I do, I'll have to leave the building. You know, you see a fire alarm just sitting there. You're like, oh, I want to pull that. That's how I felt about a stripper's panties. I'm like, I just want to pull it. But I know I couldn't because you'd hear a bunch of screaming and a guy would throw you out. So that was another analogy I had. But Yeah, that just hit me one day. And I love those A to B's. You know, this is like this and this is like this. And for some reason, those elicit laughter. I don't know why. I got a new one in my Netflix about, I went to a pet shop with my girl, and they let you have like a private moment with the pet, you know, and it's like being in a strip club. You get a lap dance, but you can't keep it. And then sometimes a stripper tries to go home with you, and that's like buying the puppy, you know, like the puppy's just looking for a better life. So that was another fun one. There's so much comedy in strip clubs because it's such a ridiculous setting. So that was a Fallon set, so I had to be cleaner. But yeah, that just snapped for me one day. You know, you go to try to hit on a girl, can't do it. Go to strip club, try to go fishing, can't do it. Go to an aquarium, boom. Seeing women, seeing fish, not being able to take one home, not being able to take one home. It just was too perfect. So I made it a bit.
Perfect. So next up for just some bits again, we'll kind of just throw these in here. I think Ronan is next.
Hey guys, how you guys doing?
Hey.
Hey, sending love from Amsterdam. I'm a bit stoned, so I apologize.
What?
Hey.
Not the Amsterdam I know.
Oh man, the bit I was gonna just see is I came up with it and I've done it a couple of times and it's bombed before a bit and that works a little bit. But I basically talk about porn in this bit that works, and then after the bit, I say that I was speaking to a friend of mine, and she was talking about porn and she thought it was really bad, but I was like, "You're looking at it the wrong way. Porn is inspirational." I was watching a video last night. Female CEO seduces young male intern. Look, women in positions of power, and usually it's just bombed so far. So I just wanted to see if it was what you guys thought of the bit, if it was rubbish or if it's worth keeping, or what do you think?
Oh, interesting. Well, I think maybe a extra part of the premise could be porn has always been inspirational for men. The pizza guys getting laid, the pool boys getting laid. These are like guys with low-level jobs getting laid by the hot mom in the house. Or sorority girls don't have the money for the plumber, so they all fuck the plumber, whatever. So it's always been a great time for the guy. And so now maybe the bit could be, we need to make inspirational porn for women, like CEO fucks intern, or intern woman makes CEO eat her out, or whatever it is. I don't know. Maybe that could add something to it.
I did. I was gonna push on from that bit and try and say, we need to see this is, if this is not a sign of equality, I don't know what is, because we need more female versions of Jeffrey Epstein, of Harvey Weinstein. I would love to see my boss squirting into a plant pot. So I was gonna push through and go into that, but I don't make it to that point because everyone's not laughed, and then I pussy out of trying to get to squirting in a plant pot.
I get it, man. I get it. It's so true. It's like if that first half of the bit doesn't click like you want it, you just start panicking, and then you forget your whole rest of the bit. So I think if you press on and get through that part, I think that's a good bit. I think there's something there. Like, you got to make the woman win, though. That's the shitty part about comedy, is like, you know, women are down here, men are up here in society, blah, blah, blah. So like, if the woman wins, it's so much funnier for the audience because they relax. Everybody's a fucking
do you think that Harvey Weinstein pushing for a female version of that is a woman win? Or do you think that's a big enough of a woman win, or is it not? Maybe.
Yeah, maybe not enough. Also, I don't think for women, sex isn't as much of a win. What's something a woman would want that would be more of a win? You know, like maybe a female porn would be a woman divorcing a rich guy and getting all the money. You know, something like that.
Yeah,
maybe
I appreciate
to the audience. Sorry.
No. Carry on. Sorry.
No. Maybe to the audience, like a woman banging an intern. For the male, for the guy, it's still kind of a win for the guy. This intern's still getting fucked. So it's not really that great of a win for the lady.
Yeah.
Or maybe you could say, here's a female porn. This is inspirational. The woman gets off and the guy doesn't. You know, because that's so rare.
it needs to be flipped more. I appreciate the help, Mark.
Yeah, but I think you got something there. I think Sam Morrill has that great bit about how women say porn is degrading. He's like, what are you kidding? Porn is so uplifting. It's like, it's not fat chicks. It's big, beautiful women. It's not
Yeah.
a cum stain. It's a facial. You know, it's a great spin on that. So I think your premise has to be incredibly clear, or else the audience doesn't know when to chuckle.
Great.
Yeah, I agree.
Thank you very much. Next up is Kevin Willard.
Yeah, could I ask a question about that wingman story bit real quick before my bit?
Yes.
Yeah, I always think of that joke as like like a dream analogy. Like if you, I guess when you thought of it, it like snapped together. You were like, holy shit, this is like perfect.
Yeah, I remember where I was when I thought of it. I remember being like, this will work. I was such a new comic when that bit's like 10 years old. And I was on 2nd Avenue with my girlfriend at the time. And I told her immediately when it hit my head. And she was like, oh, that's good. And she hated my act. She hated comedy. She dumped me eventually. And I remember being like, this is one. It's once a year you get one that just snaps like that. And that was that one. I had another one 2 years before that about hitting on a girl. Oh, what was it? Hitting on a girl is like it's like, girls hitting on guys at bars to get free drinks, but they're not actually going to fuck the guy. That's like a pedophile or a kid hitting on a pedophile to get free candy. Like, I'm not going to fuck you, but I need that lollipop or whatever. I wonder if kids did that ever. But the kid wins in that, so it worked.
Right. Well, my question was, that, like you said, could only happen like once a year to where it's like perfect. And you're like, okay, I know for a fact this is going to work. I was wondering how many similar lines where you're like, this is like this, have you tried that the audience is just like, that's not close enough?
Countless.
Like a million, right?
I've had I got 3 bits of my act now that I'm just shuffling through analogy attempts that are all bombing.
Examples. Yeah. Okay.
So that's normal. Sometimes you get that click, like the French fry and the onion ring. I don't know if you heard that bit of mine. That was just a click.
Yeah, that one that everyone stole.
Yeah. I'm not allowed to say that, but yeah. So that one just clicked, but I'm telling you, get one a year. That's why I only have like 7 of them, because I've been doing comedy 15 years.
Okay. And then I have my bit, which is also an analogy.
Please.
It's in a larger bit about Amber Alerts that I've been working on. But I say, I don't think that they should even name it Amber Alert, because you named it after a girl named Amber who went missing, but was then murdered. So it's not a very hopeful message to send to the parents of the missing child. Like that, like it's actually just kind of mean. That'd be like if your friend told you he was going on a helicopter ride and you were like, "Oh, Kobe alert."
That's great. I mean, it's gonna get some groans because of Kobe, but that's a perfect analogy.
Yeah, it either hits or, I mean, people have said too soon like over 1,000 times.
I know. I hate too soon. Too soon is such a hack answer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I've heard people say it multiple times, multiple shows in the same night, too soon.
Right.
I wanted to ask you, like, because I have a few jokes that are similar where the punchline is like a celebrity's name.
Yeah.
Punchline. Like, is that like weak if you overdo that? Where like I have another one where it's like something Paul Walker's death, and I'm like, am I just like, and it hits because it connects with the audience, but like, is that like, can you overdo it? Is it kind of weak to use like a celebrity's name to connect the dots?
Well, I think it's okay. I don't think it's weak. I think if you do too many in one set, it might water it down a little bit. But my only worry is that like Paul Walker's death, how long is that going to be really relevant? So I would worry about the evergreenness more than but if you're doing like a quick TikTok or an Instagram clip, I think that's great. But if you're putting out an album, I would worry in 10 years, somebody's going to be hearing that and going like, who the fuck's Paul Walker? Oh yeah. Then it totally ruins the bit. So
it's almost the same joke. I say that I have this friend, her 6-year-old son loves the Titanic, the boat. So she decided to show him the movie and he hated it and she couldn't figure out why. And I'm like, well, it's because everyone on the boat died.
See, that's gold. That'll never get old.
I learned from her what she did. So if I have a son and he loves Hot Wheels, I'm going to show him footage of Paul Walker's death.
That could also work with Dale Earnhardt. I mean, there's a bunch of people who died. James Dean. The Kobe one, you could even change that to, we should start calling convertibles Kennedys. because
Yeah.
it got the head blown off. Just because it's like a president dying, it's timeless. I don't know, but the Kobe one's perfect. I just worry about it, the evergreenness. But man, that's great. That's a great joke.
Cool. Thanks.
Next, we just have a couple questions here. So Udoy has a couple questions. So
Please.
Yeah, so getting over the sound of your own voice,
Oof. Brutal.
like hearing it on the loudspeaker, it's very, it fucks with your mind. So
does.
how can you get over that?
I mean, just sheer grit and pushing through. I mean, it is. I mean, look at me. I got the worst voice on the planet, so it's even harder for me. And you can feel yourself being all entertaining and like putting on a showy, which makes it even worse. The whole thing sucks. But if you just focus on the bits and the writing and the words, that's the only way out of it. Just try to put that voice hating out of your head and just focus on what you're saying, and that's one way to get through it. But it's inevitable. You have to do it. And if it does help, don't watch video too. Just go voice. Video and voice is like anal and rape. It's just two bad things. So try to go just voice, and you just got to push through and think about the writing.
All right. The other question is, how do you balance, I mean, if it's even possible, a serious professional life with comedy, especially dark comedy?
Oh, that's tough. That's tough. I don't even know. I think the only way is to preface it early. Like when you get hired and you got all these coworkers, just go, look, I like dark comedy. I'm not a bad guy. Everything is a joke with me. I don't actually promote school shootings. I'm not a fan of AIDS. I just like dark comedy. That's the only way I could do it. Or you could just tell them you're a comedian, and they usually kind of give you a little leeway. Like, Jesus Christ, this guy just made a Kobe joke, but he's a comedian. You know, they are. So there's a couple moves there, but HR is crazy now, and PC is crazy. So you're taking your life in your hands with a professional gig. I mean, I know a lot of friends who work at offices, and they had to just delete their Facebook and all that because they're nervous about people seeing their abortion jokes or whatever.
Well, somewhat related. My name is sort of unique and easily Googleable.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So should I take a stage name, and how do you make a stage name?
That's not a bad idea. I mean, you make a stage name super easily. You sign up for an open mic with the new name. You meet everybody with the new name, and you make a website with that name. So you just got to build that identity over time. Make an Instagram for that guy, and then have an Instagram for the real you. Just kind of double life it. Which just seems like a lot of work, but are you planning on quitting that professional job at some point, or is that kind of locked in forever?
No, it's sort of locked in, but yeah.
I wonder if you could talk to your boss or something. Be like, hey, look, I'm going to do this because my friend is at Club Soda Kenny. I don't know if you've ever heard him. He was like Jim Norton's bodyguard, Schumer's bodyguard, Bill Burr's bodyguard. He's this funny big guy. He used to be a cop, and they filmed him at an open mic making, black jokes and gay jokes and all this. And he got fired from being a cop. So now he's a bodyguard for comedians. But it's scary, man. I don't envy you. You're in a tough spot. But I don't know. Can you talk to the boss and go, hey, this is what I do. It's fun. I don't mean any harm. It's all jokes.
Yeah. I mean, I work in a hospital, so there's a lot of dark humor
Oh,
in general.
okay.
And I plan on becoming my own boss, so that'd be easier.
There you go. All right. Well, this will be a good way to light a fire into your ass.
Yeah.
all right, great. So we're gonna do, because we've 10 minutes left. We're gonna watch the second clip, kind of break down this coffee bit, and then we're gonna just take a look at some of the current events happening in the news and kind of watch and work with Mark to see if we could come up with any, jokes or bits in the last remaining time. So with that being said, here is the coffee bit.
But I don't know how to connect anymore. My friend.
Oh, God.
Drug is caffeine. We're all addicted. It's the one drug you're allowed to be an addict. No one cares. It's completely accepted. You wake up. It's the first thing you want. You go in your kitchen, turn your coffee maker. You're making drugs at home. There's an appliance for it. There's no Mr. Meth. And you look like an addict. You open a drawer, pull out a bag, Colombian. then you get to work, everybody's cracked out. I can't function without my coffee. I'm not myself without my coffee. No coffee, no working. You know? I used to work in this office. This mean lady would come in every day. She'd be like, I'm not talking to anybody until I get a cup of coffee. And I was always like, great, hide the coffee. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was wondering, Mark, if you could kind of talk to that bit and how you came up with that, and if you started with that last part first with the woman and then worked backwards, or what you did there.
Yeah. Let's be honest. That joke, first of all, I did that joke on Corden because everybody was like, Corden is the hottest crowd. You can't go wrong. And that is a B plus, maybe a B minus joke. It's like 5 C jokes put in order, almost like couple jabs. And then that last joke with the boss at work was the only decent joke. So I put it at the end. But you're right. I built that just by doing the last joke first. And then, or I wrote that one first, and I built backwards because I was like, coffee is so relatable. Coffee is an addiction. It is a drug. It's the most popular drug. There's something here. And I just kept hammering at it. And I was like, Colombian, that's something. Okay, you make coffee at home. That's like making drugs, like Breaking Bad is making drugs, you know? And it just took a million trial and error efforts and tries. And I finally put together like a couple of decent lines, and then I had that one at the end, which is like the big haymaker, and that's the only reason it worked. But no coffee, no worky. That's not even a punchline. That's not even a joke. But that crowd is such a fucking sheep fest that they ate it up. But not my favorite joke. But
Yeah. You know, it's a sneaky.
jeez, I can't hear it again. But I pulled it off. But it was that was just trial and error, funny bone after funny bone, and weird clubs, and that joke bombed for 6 months, and I finally put it together. Just that joke is held together with gum and tape, and I got through it, and then boom at the end. So not my best, but it's a good example. If you do, Jim Gaffigan does that a lot. He just says like, okay joke, last joke, amazing, applause break.
Nice. All right, and for the last 5 minutes of class for today, what I did was I just wrote a couple of topics to choose from and see if we, watch your brain and just kind of get an understanding how you would come up with jokes from these types of topics. So just a couple that came to mind were booster shots, with everything happening with the FDA, the Texas abortion law, that one, something about, Norm. Just throw it out there. And last but not least is Nicki Minaj's cousin's testicles swelling up. So I know if you wanted to choose one of these and we could kind of, see how a concept or idea becomes that joke.
All right. I'm going to try to rapid fire all of them in 5 minutes. Booster shots. Okay. What's funny about booster shots? Here's what I think is funny about booster shots is, with the vaccine, I got the vaccine. I want to work. But they just keep going. They go like, hey, you got to get the vaccine. Then they're like, you got to get a second shot. Now you got to get a booster shot. Then you got to get a vaccine. It just keeps going. So I like to compare. My first instinct always is compare. So I compare that to my fucking girlfriend who's like, hey, we got to move in together. Hey, we got to get married. Hey, we got to have kids. And I'm like, how about a threesome? She's like, that's crazy. What are you, nuts? I don't know. There could be some way to connect the government pushing these mandates and your girlfriend, at first they're like, hey, everything's cool, we're good, I love fucking you, I'm a fun lady, and then it's like, I need keys to the apartment, you're like, shit, all right, then it's like, I need to get married, I'm not a whore, and you're like, god. So if there's some way to tie in booster shots with that shit, like they keep coming at you and then eventually you die, maybe that's it. Like I did everything right and I still got COVID, or I did everything right with her and I still got divorced. Something like that. That would be my angle there.
Cool.
Who knows if that's any good? What?
Texas abortion law next.
Texas abortion law. Boy, there's so much comedy with the Texas abortion law. First of all, I like the idea of comparing again. You compare Texas to Afghanistan. Hey, now more people are pulling out in Texas than in Kabul. Because nobody can leave. Let's see, that could be something. How about all the people who moved to Texas from LA who are now like, we got to abort. we can get the fuck out of here because I want to have an abortion. So that could be an angle. So there's a lot there. The Uber driver gets sued. The guy's like, I just tried to bring you to fucking, you put in destination Planned Parenthood. I just did my job. Now I'm getting sued. Fuck. Maybe we make the Uber driver keep all the kids that didn't get aborted. I don't know. That should be the rule. Who knows? All right. Norm, my hero. Norm, I thought what was funny about Norm's death. Well, first of all, somebody had the best line on the internet. I can't take credit for this. They said, I can't believe Artie Lang outlived Norm Macdonald, that's probably the best Norm joke. Norm would have loved that one. But I thought, who's probably the most pissed about Norm Macdonald dying is Carrot Top, because now it brought that whole video back out in the ether. And now Carrot Top's got to be called box office poison for 6 months by every fucking Tom, Dick, and Harry. So he's probably like, oh, geez, this guy dies and I get shit on again. So that's kind of fun. And then Nicki Minaj. OJ too, by the way. OJ comes back up. Oh, shit, I'm a murderer again. Thanks, everybody. Nicki Minaj, her cousin got a huge ball sack from the vaccine. Was that it?
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe there's something because she's got a huge ass. So maybe there's something like, maybe if she takes the vaccine, her ass will shrink, or did she get a vaccine? Did that make her ass so big? What the hell happened there? We never got to the bottom of what made your ass big. Was that the flu shot? Was that the polio? What happened there? That's a tough one. Nicki Minaj. Who would have thought that, the White House called her? That's where we're at, folks. The White House is like, hey, call that skanky rapper. We need some answers. That's how much has changed. I don't think Reagan was like, hey, Mix-a-Lot, what are you doing out there? So maybe that's an angle. But yeah. Is that anything? Any of you guys got any ideas?
I think that's good. So we're almost at time. So I think one last question that will wrap it up. And like I said, this is our first one. So, we hope that this has been like fun and engaging, interactive, educational. But one of the questions I think is a great question to end on is, Mark, what are some of your daily disciplines that you do to be a comedian and like the daily, like the inputs that go into the output of being a successful comedian?
All right. Well, aside from all my dumb push-ups and my queefy pull-ups and my squats I do every day, which is all OCD, by the way. It's not because I'm some kind of tough mutter. I just have if I go, if I don't do my squats, my dad will go gay or whatever it is. So I just make myself do all this bullshit. But I think you got to write. You got to maybe throw out a tweet. You got to at least get your brain in comedy mode. Start thinking about stuff. Look at news stories. Put the news out of your brain as in like absorbing feelings like, oh my God, abortion. But just look at a story and think, how could this be funny? Where could this go? Comedy Central had a show for 10 minutes called Live at the Cellar or something like that. And it was all about, they would send you news stories and you had to write jokes that day and then go perform them that night. And they would play, if their jokes were good enough, they would play them on Comedy Central. And it was a cool idea. And most people sucked at it. But it forced you to sit down with these news stories and headlines and knock out jokes. And like 9 out of 10 or 8 out of 10 jokes were horrible, but some were good enough. I just kept them on my act. Like that Little Debbie joke I used to have, like they're putting chips inside fat people to let them know when they're eating junk food. I'm like, we should do it with pedophiles. I don't care about, you eating snacks. I care about you touching Little Debbie. That just came from that. So even though most of them suck, you'll get one. It's like panning for gold. You got to keep panning and then sifting, and then you'll find a nugget eventually. But that's the thing about comedy is everybody writes one, it sucks, and they move on. So it takes a lot of persistence. So keep going, folks. That's it.
Awesome. Cool. Well, that concludes our first class. Really, thank you guys all for joining. Like, this is something new that, I think both Mark and myself are really into. Right now it's for one a month, but we want to probably do more. And, when Mark has an hour on the road, we'll kind of set it up, send up the Zoom. So you might be hearing from me just for some feedback. So we want to make sure we're, improving on this and make sure that if there's anything that we could do to make it better. But again, thank you all for joining. We're hopefully the technical recording is all set. So when the class is done over the next day or so, this should be uploaded to a $25 tier for anyone kind of, you know, who wants to watch or wasn't able to make it. And please share the love. Let people know about the Patreon. This is like Mark's home for comedy. The goal is that, you know, ideas, sketches, TV pilot, you know, we want to really grow this out to become the home of our own comedy network. So very exciting stuff. And think about bits and let's bring them back.
Thank you. Praise Allah. I'll see you in hell. Comedy.
Thanks, Mark. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you. Appreciate you.
Have a good one, everyone.
Great jokes.
Thank you.
Thank you.